Hi there, I'm Coach Craig Kenneth.
And I'm Coach Victoria.
And today we're going to be talking about, will my anxious ex come back?
Who knows?
We'll find out next week. Have a good week, everybody. Wait, no! Now I'm anxious.
They're probably tired of that joke by now.
I know. You know, we got to keep them on their toes. Throw an old joke out there so they appreciate the new ones.
This is fair. This is fair. Today we're going to talk about the anxious attachment style, what this looks like if your ex is more anxious, and how that affects their likelihood of reconsidering the relationship.
Yeah, obviously we talk a lot about attachment styles and breakups on the channel because it is really tied to mental health and being able to do a long-term relationship. So, many of you have come to the channel and you start to see all kinds of patterns and things going on in your relationship you had never even considered before, and you realize the insecurities with your ex probably had them as a very anxious person where they were constantly worried about abandonment. So, now that you're looking back at your situation and you realize that, you know, your ex has a lot of anxious traits, you're probably going to be sitting there thinking, well, okay, will they come back to me? They're so anxious. You know, this could mean a lot of different things, right? And one of the big things that a lot of people worry about is if, you know, they're so anxious to be alone, are they going to quickly find somebody else? Because they don't like to feel alone. They're scared. And, you know, we don't talk about monkey branching on the channel, but some people are like, how come you don't talk about that? Well, I mean, the way we don't really look at it like people are monkeys.
For starters.
But I get what they're saying, but really that's basically about insecure people that are afraid to be alone. Now, that's not always the truth, but it happens most of the time that way, that somebody, instead of taking time after a breakup to reflect, to think about things, to grow, to heal, and to move on, they go to another person because they're afraid to be alone.
Exactly. And you can see anxious attachment style in men, in women, of people of all genders. So I just want to make that clear that this can affect anybody.
Yeah, absolutely.
I also want to talk today a little bit about what research is out there about anxious attachment style and about breakups.
Okay.
So today we're going to talk about some research coming from Florida Atlantic University and research by Morgan Cope and her colleagues.
Okay.
So thank you, Morgan Cope, for this piece of research so that we can discuss it today, kind of give you some more insight into your own situation. So she also looked at attachment styles, breakups, and self-concept. So self-concept is really the way that you view yourself and your identity.
Which we have talked about in other videos.
We've talked quite a bit about it. And she found that those who are more anxiously attached are more likely to have issues with their self-concept after a breakup. You know, we probably could have told you that. You really didn't need all that research for it. However, what's important to note here is why they are motivated to reunite with their ex. What brings somebody to try to repair the relationship? And what Cope and her colleagues found was the more distress that they have with this self-concept, with their identity, with who they are after the relationship ends, the more likely they are to try to repair things.
Yep.
And so what this really means is that somebody who's anxiously attached finds a lot of their identity in relationships. They tie who they are with who they are dating.
Yes, that's a big point. And they kind of get preoccupied with that other person and not wanting to let them go. You know, it's terrifying to let that person go.
Right. She also does note, like you mentioned earlier, that fear of what if my anxious ex does find somebody else? She notes that this is a possibility, that anxious people are more likely to try to find somebody to fill in that hole, to be there next to them so that they're not alone dealing with their emotions by themselves. And I wanted to read you a little quote from her research. It says, anxiously attached individuals tend to ruminate on and report more regrets about their past relationships. Thus, individuals may attempt to rekindle dissolved relationships as a means of navigating uncertainty and distress.
Okay, so what does that mean?
So this whole long quote is to also tell you that yes, anxious people do tend to plow over in their heads everything that happened, how the relationship went. They're more likely to have regret about how the relationship ended. So if you're a partner of somebody who's anxiously attached, you notice these traits throughout the relationship, a breakup happens, you know that they are more likely to be thinking about it and to also be distressed.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. And I would have said the same things because, what we see in people is, this almost like biological alarm that goes off inside of us when we feel that separation anxiety. And I think, the anxiously attached people that are more predominantly anxious about that abandonment, that alarm goes off and, it's internally taking over their body. And so the feelings and the thoughts kind of get tied together. And so they feel this anxiety, and then it kind of overwhelms their brain and their mind and the obsessing about the breakup. Now, for me, I think the avoidant has kind of stopped thinking about those things like the anxious person, because they were essentially told growing up, don't think about it, don't worry about it, I'll give you something to be upset about, don't bother me right now. And so they've been taught their whole life to just sweep those anxieties and fears and concerns and issues and problems under the rug. And so I think they've just gotten to this, I don't want to say routine or mode, I guess like a mode of just not thinking about it. So it doesn't mean that the avoidant doesn't think about it. It means I think the anxious person is more consciously aware that they're thinking about it, whereas the avoidant, it's kind of in the back of their mind, but they're trying not to think about it.
Exactly. The anxious person is a lot more in touch with their emotions, and they do hold a lot more fear about the future, what it means. One kicker in the study that I found really interesting was Cope and her colleagues, thank you guys very much, they did find that a mediator was self-concept clarity. So what self-concept clarity is somebody really discovering their identity, recreating themselves after a breakup, figuring out who they are, what they like, and kind of connecting with themselves again. And so what does this mean for you as the person who has been dumped? All of these things are healthy, for somebody to obtain their identity again, for somebody to be fully in themselves. What this research really tells me is the importance of, during a relationship, to be able to keep your own identity and support your partner's independence. Because I bet you somebody who comes back just because they're having an identity crisis is going to be a lot different from somebody who comes back because you're their best option.
That's a good point. Okay, so for those of you watching this video, you'll probably think, well, I was the avoidant in the relationship, right? And so you probably were making that person feel neglected or not cared about, and they probably felt like you weren't going to change and things weren't going to turn around, and they couldn't take it anymore. That's what happens a lot of times in situations like this. So, they end it and they think that they're completely done with you and that they're going to move on. But, even if they find somebody new, a lot of times when that doesn't work out, they really think about you. The anxious person thinks about, who you were in their life. Maybe they start to think that you're going to change. Maybe they're secretly hoping that you're going to change. And you don't want to tell them I've changed, because believe me, that usually goes poorly at some point for various different reasons. Just trust me. You want to let them see the changes for themselves. And, if you try and push, oh, I've changed, I'm different now, you just come across as a used car salesman, and they're going to double down on the nose. They're going to be a lot more likely to say yes if they see that you're slowly trying to show growth and changes, and that you respect how they've been feeling in the relationship. And now that you're reflecting on it, you're trying to make a real effort to understand their needs differently. And
for those of you who do have more anxious exes, it also makes me wonder what great lengths that they had to go to come to this decision. You know, it's not easy for somebody who is afraid of abandonment to actively pursue leaving their partner in hopes that things will be better. You know, so I really want you to reflect on that for them, this decision didn't come easy by any means. Really reflect as to how you were able to show up for them, how you were able to meet their needs, what things you could talk about openly in your relationship. With this whole research about identity, self-concept, you know, these things that we're talking about, you don't want an ex to come back to you just because they're lost and they don't know who they are. Sure, that might be a part of it, and sure, maybe that gets you your ex back, but what does that mean for the relationship?
In the long run, it's going to cause problems.
Exactly. We know that you want your ex back. We know that you want your ex back to their full essence. So if they are able to make their own decisions, to stand up for themselves, they are being more of themselves. So that's really the goal, is that you, as their partner, you want to encourage their independence. You want to encourage them to be their full, authentic self. So keeping all of this in mind, yes, you do have a higher likelihood that your ex is going to come back if they're anxious, but we also want you to have a healthy relationship where you can support them being independent, making their own decisions. You're also pushing yourself to meet their needs too.
I think the last point is absolutely critical. I cannot make this any more clear to you if you were an avoidant in your relationship. If you don't work on your own attachment issues, even if your ex comes back, you are going to have another breakup. They are going to get tired of feeling neglected and abandoned and not seen and not heard. And eventually you will get broken up with again. Most avoidants that I do calls with, they don't really do the work until they've been dumped. Okay? So, if you've been broken up with, you better stay committed to the personal growth even after you get your ex back. You better put yourself on probation for at least 9 months. If you're not, you're going to come back to this video and you're going to remember these words. Trust me, I see this all day, every day, every week, you know, I mean, for month after month, year after year. You've got to heed this warning. Stay motivated. You've got to show your partner that you can be a good partner for them and they're not going to hurt by being neglected by staying with you.
Exactly. So we hope that both of you are going to be two individuals that can depend on each other, that can grow together. And that's our ultimate goal for all of you. So with this video, I hope that it's given you a lot of hope. I hope that it's given you some perspective, different ways of looking at attachment styles and how much our identities are involved in our relationships.
Yeah. Okay, so I hope you really think about the warning here and stay committed to the personal growth, because the last thing you want to happen is for your ex to come back, do you have another chance with it, and then they wind up leaving because they weren't feeling cared about enough again, and all the issues that came with the dynamics the first time around. So hopefully this video has been helpful to you. If you want to get our help personally, you can do that on my website, askcraig.net. I do email coaching and I do Skype. Coach Victoria is also available for Skype coaching.
I'm here whenever you need to talk.
Just click on her name on the top of the website to schedule with her. But that's it for this video. I'm Coach Craig Kenneth.
And I'm Coach Victoria.
And we will talk with you soon.